Guys podcast, episode number 132. We are back at it, and we're back and back and back again.
Yeah, it's just been a weird time, man. And it is always good to catch up just on the what's going on with like the Muay Thai world, because things are obviously changing every single day. But yeah, man, I was talking to a friend today. It just kind of feels like the twilight zone. We're living in the twilight zone right now, and it's with so much uncertainty and not knowing how to go about. You can't really make too many plans right now.
Mm.
It's just a lot of unsettled feelings right now, especially like in Thailand with the visa situation still being sorted out more or less. It's really interesting just to see how all the countries and how all the people are taking these situations step by step.
Human beings definitely enjoy like X's and O's and being told like certain things so they can, one, plan ahead, and two, to just like make sense of what is happening. So that uncertainty I can definitely see on people's faces. I can see it on the trainers within the gym, the fighters. Whenever something goes wrong, you can tell personal things from outside the gym are affecting what's happening in the gym, whether it's with a trainer or with another partner, or just anyone. When you're in a business and things are going wrong, you can just see people are kind of on edge a little bit.
Yeah, naturally so. I mean, like the from what you were telling me is that Diamond right now actually has some of the it's a little bit better, quote unquote, better off than some other gyms because of the location and because of the ease of restrictions here compared to like places like Phuket and Bangkok. And so it's been nice to know that we've been able to get good training, but then at the same time, just seeing how everything else is unfolding around the country. Fights are starting back up again on like Max Muay Thai and some fights out in the rural parts of Thailand as well. But yeah, I know Raja or the Amnoy Stadium title was just fought. I think it was either today or yesterday. And so it's good to see some action coming back. The one championship card in Bangkok on the 31st is fucking stacked. I'm pumped for that. And it's always good to watch UFC, Fight Island stuff every now and then too, because right now there's no sports, there's no live events really going on right now. And if anything, it just helps us kind of keep our sanity a little bit longer while we continue to wait for a vaccine or whatever it is that we're waiting for.
Yeah, I was worried for a second, like, how are we going to bounce back? How is Muay Thai going to bounce back? And then thinking about it, like from a different perspective, UFC and Muay Thai are pretty much the only sports that are going live and promoting shows and still being able to fight inside empty arenas. I know some places, I'm sure, are doing some sketchy things in more like rural areas, but being able to see the UFC, I really look forward to it every single weekend, a lot more so than I did before, just because, when you don't have something, that's exactly what you crave.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I feel fortunate where we are right now, just with the ability to train, because I know a lot of people right now, their gyms, specifically in the US, they open and then they close, and they open and then they close, and there's just a lot of not knowing how to go about your training right now. And so before we get into like the main topic, which were a couple of fan questions in relation to joining a new gym and how to just kind of like find your way in without like stepping on people's toes and making sure you feel comfortable stepping into the gym. And also, if your gym is closed, how to make the most of your solo training. Let's just do a quick update. So what have you been up to? How's training been going on your end? And yeah, just fill us in.
It's been super good. Initially, I was very worried and just checking things every single day, and I realized what that was doing for my brain and how draining it is of energy to just check Facebook and check Instagram every 5 minutes to look for an update from news. And then I'm also soaking in all this extra information, just a bad diet of information at the same time. When I'm looking for like an objective update, pretty much, hey, do we have to leave? Do we have to get a new visa? Are we going to get one extended? That's all I really want to know. But as I'm looking, oh man, it's an addiction, because you see that red little thing and it says 12 or whatever notifications that you have, and sometimes you click on it or you keep scrolling through the news feed versus going directly to the page. And even the people that I know are super positive, people that I really like having on my timeline, I see myself constantly hitting that like 30-day snooze button not to see certain posts. I'm trying to stay as positive as possible, but even I myself have shared the most amount of stories and articles and things like that, more so than I ever have before when it comes to politics and things that are going on. But once I realized that, and I just wanted that off my shoulders, we spent the money to get a long-term visa here and not to have to worry about it anymore. There was uncertainty whether we're coming back home or here, and our option was to go back home to Florida. And now seeing what's happening in Florida the past 2 days, and them hitting record-breaking numbers, number one
America.
champions, yes, number one America. I think we made the right decision. How about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, we're fortunate where we had a visa that is good until October anyway. And so when I was talking to you and everyone else who was on a tourist visa and just knowing the uncertainty, I wasn't really thinking of my situation because I knew my situation was good. But when you mentioned that like everyone might be leaving and like what's that going to mean for the businesses and training and that kind of stuff, it kind of made me take a step back and think a little bit more deeply on the situation and what we have to do. I'm trying to be one step ahead because obviously like everyone was waiting until the visa amnesty was up here, and now it's up, and now it's like trying to figure your shit out. I want to always try to be ahead, and since it'll be into October, hopefully we'll be able to figure something out by then. Hopefully there'll be some type of international travel allowed back into Thailand where it'll be a little bit easier to figure out the visa situation and being able to stay here. Because sometimes when you're on Facebook and you read these forum or group posts about, hey, I'm in Thailand, but I don't want to go home, but the visa is running out. What should I do? People are like, just go home. But like, what if Thailand's your home? Like what, like this is my home, and like New York isn't my home anymore. My dogs are here. My life is here. And so it's a lot to like have to take in when it comes to just figuring out the future, because the future is so uncertain in so many different aspects of life. Obviously, we're both professional fighters, but we have to put that aside right now because there's not really any fight opportunities. Meanwhile, we're still sharpening our tools where we can. We're trying to work on other projects related to our online businesses. And so, fortunately, like I feel very lucky. I've been dropping in gratitude a lot. The fact that I have a house on the sea with my own heavy bag, like I'm good, and then I'm okay with being able to eat and have a roof over, like all those cliche simple things. And just looking on the outside, like I love America, but it just looks like a fucking mess from the outside, man. And I'm grateful for not having to just really be on the ground level with that, because I feel stressed just watching it. I can't imagine what it's actually like being there. And so to everyone in America, like sending you all the love in the world, because I know it's just seemingly getting worse and worse by the day in one form or another. And it's hard to know what's even really going on with the all-time low trust in media and politicians and everything. Just like no one's trusting anybody anymore about anything. And so it's just a really, really strange time. But me, yeah, like I said, Liz and I are good. Our dogs are good. We got you and me on the island. We got some other friends on the island. So yeah, not too much to complain about besides the fact that we just aren't fighting right now.
How do you feel like you would utilize this time if you were back home? Like if you didn't have a heavy bag hanging outside your house for you to be able to kind of do this solo training, how do you think you would take advantage of this period of in time?
I think it would be a mixture of things. I kind of look at this as like when I've had injuries, what would I do if I had an injury? Like, what would I do to make sure I'm staying sharp in one form or another? And usually it entails reading a lot of books, like trying to like just educate myself in areas of my life that I want to make sure that I'm improving on. And I have like two main like philosophies when it comes to learning, and one's like in time learning, where I'm learning things I need to know right now. And then another is like dream learning, where I'm learning things that I will need to know in order to accomplish like future goals. So reading, I'm always reading. And so that would be a big chunk of my time to keep me sane and to keep my brain active and firing off on all cylinders. When it comes to like the physical aspect of training, I definitely would be running as much as I can, making sure I'm getting fresh air as much as possible, because especially in New York or like Connecticut, where you're from, the summer only lasts so long. And so I would make sure to get that in as much as I can before the cold days of winter come around. Make sure to explore nature as much as I can, and be doing some like cross training, to just do some biking, some running, some swimming, and just stay in shape, just maintain my shape. And then when it comes to like fight specific stuff, like Muay Thai specific stuff, there's so like shadow boxing is just a beautiful thing. You could do that anytime, anywhere, and especially if you're intentional behind it, and you actually create some type of structure and routine around it and focus on certain things that you want to be improving on, you can really improve a lot when it comes to your footwork, with your general movement, with your cleanliness of your technique. And so shadow boxing, I'll be doing that all day, every day. And on a side note, just recently, so I started the 100 kicks 100-day challenge, and people are actually finishing that up now, and they've reached 100 days. And it's just something as simple as that, just showing up to throw 100 kicks every day. If you throw 100 kicks every day for 100 days, that's 10,000 kicks. And then you know the whole Bruce Lee quote of throwing one kick 10,000 times. You did it, you know. And so I think just consistency and staying active, because I can imagine it can be really easy to fall into some type of depression or anxious mindset, knowing that you can't make it to the gym. And even if you make it to the gym, you have to wear a mask, and then it's uncomfortable, and all this kind of stuff that even surrounds even going to the gym. It just seems like a whole to do. So just staying active mentally and physically. And also, if I was back in New York, I would make sure to spend a lot more time with my family in times like these, where it's just you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. And so just making sure that you continue to nurture your relationships that you care about, and make sure just to surround yourself with a positive environment. That's been one theme that I've been realizing more and more, is like environment is everything, and not just like your physical environment, but the people you surround yourself with. So that's generally what I would do, and that's generally what I'm doing right now anyway. The benefit of what I have is that we have a gym and we have a heavy bag, so I can add that stuff as well, but I'm doing everything else too. But yeah, what about you, man?
I think setting like a plan A, B, and C, that was a big theme, especially waiting for this amnesty, is looking at options. And, before this even came about, we called our parents back at home. We called our friends, gyms back at home, just to kind of, feel out what's happening and see what the environment is like back home, what people think is going to happen, as well as talking to the gyms to see if it's even a viable option to come back and be able to stay active. So we're like, okay, if we do get an extension, or if the gym closes back up, then we flip to plan B. If the gym stays open, okay, we go back to plan A. And then if both fail, we have like this, like fail safe plan C, right? And like if all else goes to shit. So I think it's really nice to have those, and it kills the stress whenever something goes wrong, because you go, okay, like we prepared for this. A didn't work, we go to B, then it's okay, it's open again. And what you talked about, not knowing if gyms are going to open, close, to have that regimen by yourself, some type of focused training on your own solo, And then if the gyms open up, then even better. Now you get to use a lot of these weapons that you were working on by yourself with a partner and be able to progress that way, or do it in a group. And then if things close back down, well, you already had a regimen, you already had a plan. So you just ride right back onto that. One of the best examples, I think, is Dusty, who came to one of your camps. He, out of all people that I have seen, he has been thriving in this because he got a strength and conditioning program. He does a lot of your programs and work. He signed up for my striking academy, and his blending it all together. So his doing your heavy bag blueprint stuff, and then his adding a lot of the skill training and the different workouts from my striking academy. And then he has a strength and conditioning program, however many times a week, from a strength and conditioning coach. And these are all focus-based programs. Things are on paper, they're legitimate. And once things lifted up, he was right back in the gym to finish up his 100 kick challenge and do his 100th day.
Yeah, I mean, so I studied underneath Sobo for a while, and one of the things, he's the host of the Sports Motivation podcast, and he taught me a lot in relation to anticipating things that are going to like stop you from reaching your goals. So in the book Principles by Ray Dalio, he has like five key steps, I think it is. The first step is to like figure out your goal, and then the next step is to figure out what's going to stop you and anticipate what is going to stop you, and have like plan according to the distractions or the setbacks or the challenges that are going to be thrown in your way. And so fortunately, I've already had the mindset of anticipating shit hitting the fan. Like no one could have anticipated this, obviously, but just having backup plans is going to be super critical to your sanity, to your health. And yeah, just making sure that if the gym is open, you know what to do. You know what to do regardless of what happens. Like you think of the worst possible situation is that you're quarantined at home. What do you do when you're quarantined at home? How are you going to mix up your training? What type of skill work are you going to be working on? And then what are you going to do if the gym opens back up, and how are you going to balance all that? And I think it's really important to spend the time to actually think about this stuff and write it out, because it's easy to it's easy to think about it, right? It's not actually easy to structure it in a way that is relevant to your situation and relevant to the goals that you have and relevant to the time that you have, that you can allot to this type of training. So I think it's really important not even during times like these, but I think it's especially important during times like these, is to make sure you have like an anticipation playbook for when one thing goes wrong, you have this. If that thing goes wrong, then you have that. And you just keep having these different types of situations in case it doesn't work out the way that you imagine.
I don't think there's anything that derails people more than not anticipating these things and the speed bumps that will happen. I think it's both excitement and people wanting to be optimistic, and maybe it feels pessimistic to look at, well, things are going to go wrong and I need to anticipate this. So it's like, well, no, things aren't going to go wrong. I'm going to start this and I'm going to become a champion. I'm going to have this like easy ride up. What would you say to those people that are that kind of hold that kind of optimism, where I hear all the time, it's like, oh yeah, I'm starting this project and I'm going to do this and then I'm going to market it this way, and they have this grand vision, but you can tell it's so rose colored and you've been there already, and you're like, oh man, like, have you thought about this though? Have you thought about this? And you can tell that they haven't asked themselves those questions yet.
Yeah, I mean, I was like that at the beginning, because like it's like a mindset thing, right? You're trying to tell yourself like you're going to make this. It's the law of attraction. If you say this is going to happen, it's going to happen, right? And like maybe it will, but I've realized like I set really high standards for myself. I set really high goals for myself, and I almost never reach them. And so I think it's been really important for me to develop this mindset of being comfortable with resistance and being comfortable with like not being able to reach my goal. Cause like I think it's really important to have big goals. But I also think it's really important to be not realistic about reaching the goals, but know that if you don't reach that goal, it's not a failure, because chances are you've strived a lot further and you did a lot more striving for a big goal than you would if you just set a small, easy goal to accomplish. And there's times
Mhm.
and places for that as well, because it's good to build momentum, build some confidence, get like a easy fight, if you will, like get an easy fight, build that momentum up, build that confidence up. But once you set these like big goals, and which I think are really important, I think everyone should do. I think that without any type of anticipation, when you do, like, because I get what you mean with like, well, if you're thinking about negative things, then those negative things are going to happen, kind of thing, right? Now, it's hard to know what's actually going to happen, but I like to think if I'm planning for those not necessarily planning for those negative things, but I'm planning in case those negative things happen, that they're less likely to happen because I'm not focusing on them anymore. I'm not worried about them
Mm.
anymore because I know I have a plan in case they were to happen, whether it's an injury, whether it's or whatever it may be. Usually you can anticipate stuff as much as you want, but then life will just fucking smack you across the face with something that you had no idea was going to hit you in the first place, whether it's financial or COVID or relationships or death or whatever, right? But that being said, it's still good to flush out as many possible roadblocks that are going to be in your way, because like the thing with social media and with fighting specifically, you see the end result, you see the best version of everyone, you don't see everything that goes in behind the scenes, because people want to show their best to the general public and to society and to the world, right? But behind the scenes, there are so many setbacks, there are so many nights where you doubt what you're doing, whether it's the
Mm.
right thing that you should be doing, whether you just lost a fight and you also have no money and you're like, what the fuck am I doing, like trying to fight when I can't even like feed myself right now, and I'm just stressed to shit about money. And so I think it's just important to have, I don't like the word realistic, because I feel like too many people are realistic. But that being said, I think it's important to have some type of understanding of what could happen. So if it does happen, you just have a better game plan and you could just keep moving, right? Because sometimes when something like hits you, like a challenge hits you, if you don't have an immediate action plan, if this hits you, then you're in this limbo state. And that's where anxiety and depression can really sneak in, because you're not sure what to do anymore. And like you got hit so hard, maybe you were trying to become a champion, and before you even got the championship fight, you broke your arm and now you can't train for a little while. Like that's going to be a huge hit one way or another, but it'll be less of a hit if you have a proactive plan in place for you to still make sure you're improving in one form or another, regardless of the situation.
And the crossover between fighting and life has
So
not
many
become any
parallels.
so
Yeah.
many parallels. It has not become any more apparent than it has now during this time. And we were talking about this over dinner. And as you're talking about this, I'm just having visions of I like using the clinch as an example because you get in positions, right? Versus on the outside, you get caught by things. They catch you off guard.
Mhm.
In the clinch, you get stuck in positions and you need an answer. Like person puts you in a position. How do you get out of a position? There is a solution, but if you didn't prepare, you didn't think about this position, you never trained in it, then getting out of that position, either one makes you emotional and then puts you in trouble, or B, it takes a ton of energy to get out of it.
Mhm.
And then just other things, little easy things start hitting you right after because of the energy that you used up. Exactly what happens in life. If you're not ready for it, it's going to suck the energy out of you. You're not prepared for it. You don't have this immediate answer where you can just keep flowing and literally flowing with the punches.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy. I didn't think about that with clinching and everything too, because like you're gonna find yourself in bad positions. Like you're up against life, right? Like life is a motherfucker. Life is a hell of an opponent. And so like knowing all these different types of positions, underhooks, overhooks, T-Rex arms, keep your hips in, like just little things like that are gonna help you be able to adjust on the fly and keep momentum, as opposed to letting it just completely smack you off your role and then completely like derail you and just like stop any type of momentum that you initially had. And it can be hard. I mean, like, not obviously everything we're saying is like easier said than done. But I like to think that we do practice what we preach. We've made so many mistakes on our way to where we are right now, but this is why we're sharing this, is because like we've learned this through experience, and we're continuing to learn this through experience and how to adjust on the fly with whatever situation comes in our way. And that's like the beauty of martial arts and fighting, is that there are so many parallels and lessons that you can learn from competing, or not even just from competing, just from training, right? And being comfortable in discomfort and learning all these things about you that you would never learn unless you would put yourself in that type of situation.
One of the conversations that we were having over dinner was me kind of opening up about being in a fight, and when things were going sour or the challenge that was in front of me was greater than I thought, then I would have things that come up from personal life and affect my performance, in the sense that if I wasn't doing good personally or financially, I would think about all the things I sacrificed to be in that fight. And after being in there for 49 fights now and having done this for nearly a decade, there comes a time, I'm 27, I'm turning 28, hitting my prime, which are all great things, but it's also a time where you got to think about real life. Eventually, I'm going to have a family, and I'm going to have to provide for them and all these things, right? And thinking about this while you're in a fight and there's negative things impacting you from your personal life, not a great thing to happen when you're questioning yourself. And this is what I was talking about with this COVID situation. You see it. You see it in the gym, during sparring, where emotion takes over, or with the trainers in their energy. You can see that they're thinking about other things, like they're smiling and everything's all good when you're on the pads, but you can almost see it when they turn away, they take a break, like this deep breath. And I feel like there's no better time than now to practice what your life is at home, what you talked about with family and gratitude and being grateful for everything that you have outside of this actual sport, and just getting your shit together at the same time. That's why you read these books. This is why you learn so many different things at the same time. I always thought that this well-rounded approach sometimes actually leads you to better performances, because at the end of the day, like, you're doing this out of passion, you're doing this to challenge yourself, and then if you're at peace with yourself and everything else that you're doing, is that much easier to be at peace and be loose in the ring.
This is actually an interesting topic, because I recently just like got hit with burnout by doing too much work, right? And just focusing too much on my business, since I didn't really have much reason to focus on my training, right? And we've talked about like the idea of balance, and how like some seasons you'll be off balance, or you'll be out of balance with like training if you're in a fight camp compared to when you're not in a fight camp, and so on and so forth. And this idea of balance has really perplexed me. I'm still trying to like figure this out, right? But it is a whole well-rounded approach, and the way that you put it together was that like you perform better if all areas in your life are kind of taken care of. And this is another thing that Knees actually taught me. Whether I've implemented it correctly or not, I'm still figuring that shit out, and it's always a work in progress, as is life. But I find that it's really important to make sure that you're not neglecting other areas of your life. It can be easy to become obsessive about something like Muay Thai, like fighting, like work, like making money, whatever it is. And it's really easy to have tunnel vision and lose sight of other things in your life that are important to you, most importantly, relationships. And yeah, speaking of which, I actually just watched like a TED Talk too, where they did this study of like a lifelong study of hundreds of guys, and like judging what their happiness was. And they all came from all different backgrounds, all different upbringings, all worked different jobs, yada, yada, yada. Some died early, some died old. the ones who had the most happiness were because they had the most genuine connections and like loving relationships in their lives with the people closest to them. And so that just kind of emphasized like when all this madness is going on in the world, the things that matter the most is like the people in your circle. And because the environment is what's going to cause you this extraneous stress or this worry or this anxiety, just like you have been starting to unfollow some people for 30 days. I do the same thing because sometimes you just want to not hear about the madness and craziness of the world for a day. And you just want to be able to enjoy what you do have and focus on the things that you can control. Because social media, although it's like a beautiful thing in that people can have a voice and share their thoughts and opinions unlike any other time in human history, it's also a double-edged sword in the way that like everyone has a voice, everyone can share whatever they want whenever they want to share it, and it can be consuming, it could be overwhelming. And like me personally, I get tagged in a lot of shit and I get messaged and I get email, like it's like super overwhelming. And so in order for me to make sure that I'm protecting my space, as I have to like set boundaries and make sure I'm only connecting with the people that I want to be connecting with and making sure that I'm answering them on my time. And I think that should be a rule for everyone. I think boundaries, I don't know how I ended up swerving all the way over to this uh aspect of the discussion, but having like really strong boundaries with who's in your circle, who you will allow to have deeper insight to who you are and what your dreams are, I think is really important. Because if you share that kind of stuff with the wrong people, even the smallest uh, comment of someone throwing shade your way can really detract you from your goals, or throw that inkling of doubt in your mind. And you know, like any fighter knows, if you have that little bit of doubt in the back of your mind, it's going to affect your performance in one form or another. And so you're best off making sure that the people you're around believe in you, believe in your goals, and you're doing the same, you're reciprocating. That's one thing too, is that like uh, I've realized like friendship and relationships that you want to keep has a lot to do with reciprocity and like being able to give without feeling like you have to get anything back, but knowing that as a good friend or a good family member or whoever it is, that they'll eventually pay back the favor, even though that's not even a thing to pay back the favor. It's just like what you do. But I see a lot of people taking advantage of generosity and not reciprocating the type of energy work that, so, and that's an, I'm just fucking rambling now, but like energy is a whole nother thing too. Cause you talk about environment and like positive energy and just like body language and that kind of stuff, that stuff is tangible. And like with social media, if you're checking your phone every day and you're getting all these toxic ideas in your head, it's really easy to let that derail you. And I've struggled with that, but it's something to be conscious of at the very least.
Yeah, I saw this quote today from Kyle Hughley, the son of DJ Hughley.
He's always dropping some good stuff. I love that dude. He's a real guy.
I really like him as well. And he posted a quote today that said, don't listen to the advice and opinions of the people that aren't willing to suffer the consequences of those opinions and those actions, right? So a lot of people telling you to do certain things while they themselves never have to suffer the consequences of it. And man, does that really relate? Because thinking about all the different things that I've done, even throughout my career, just listening to people's opinions so I can fit their mold and look a certain way. And like, oh, if you want to be legitimate, you got to do this. You know, you got to sleep in. Everyone has certain images of like what you have to do to reach a certain point. And then I'm the one that's suffering the consequences of all of it. And even if you do it, most likely you will never see that person comment or have any different
congratulate you or anything.
Yeah. Those aren't the people that are going to congratulate you. So the people that are in your circle, the environment that you spoke about, are the ones that are the only ones that really should be getting a lot of the insight. That's definitely something I want to balance myself, because I know that a lot of these stories that we tell, or even fights we share, like these bad moments, a lot of people can relate to it, and they're thankful. But then there's definitely a lot of like piranhas out there that just want to take advantage, and use it to their advantage or to feel better about themselves. So it's a weird balance, definitely, like seeing how much of your personal life you want to share, especially in a time where everyone does get an opinion and you get to feel pretty much the pain of the entire world right now.
And speaking of like sharing your story and sharing your experiences, social media makes it in a way that like people only want to be sharing the best pictures of themselves, the best moments of themselves. And like naturally, right? Because you want to show your value to the world. And it's just like human nature in that sense. But very few people are able to be real and show the ups and downs of everything. And that's the type of quote unquote influencers and people who should actually be followed, who are showing the whole story and not just the whole iceberg metaphor, if you know what I mean, where you just see the tip of the iceberg with all the success, but underneath it, you don't see all the hard work and sleepless nights that go on behind the scenes. But yeah, I mean, it's a really strange world to navigate, especially now more than ever. It was before COVID, just with social media. It was already really strange to navigate, but now everything is being politicized. Everything is being a conspiracy. Everything is just being questioned. And in a way, it's good to have all these questions. And a lot of conspiracies make sense and like all this kind of stuff. But regardless of what's happening out there, if you aren't going to actually do anything about it, then why don't you just focus on your own ability to control your surroundings and what's going on in your life and your internal surroundings more than anything. And that's another thing I've kind of come to realize too, is that like I don't want to be telling anybody how to live their life or anything. I'm just, because that's kind of what a lot of like coaches on social media and people just generally do, is they don't have like, they don't share opinions just to share opinions. They share opinions to tell people how they should be thinking or what they should be doing. Not everyone, obviously. I'm obviously throwing everybody in one big group, but it's just yeah, just to repeat, it's just like a fucking strange world, man. And it gets stranger by the day. It just gets stranger by the day. But ultimately, I guess what I was trying to say was the one thing that you can control for the most part is your mind. And as long as you're able to control your mindset and be able to use it in a way that's going to make you a more happy, healthy, and productive human being, then that's what it's all about. And also, I found what's really important for me in times of like desperation and where people are struggling is to make sure you're giving, like without feeling the need to get anything back in return. Just like whether it's your time volunteering for things or it's your money for random charities that some friend of a friend asked for you to donate because they knew someone that you might be able to help. Those types of things is what like the human race I feel like is all about. And so as long as I'm giving, it's kind of, we also mentioned this, like how it's like selfish for us to be like helping people because it makes us feel good, So like donating to a charity or volunteering at a dog shelter, it makes me feel good. And like obviously there's two different types of like selfishness, but that's like the good type of selfishness that should be rewarded. If anything, the fact that you're actually giving instead of just taking, which is a common thread in today's world.
Beautiful way to summarize it. Let's break a little break in the time in the episode and then go into an actual
let's do it.
The actual topic. So I had a question that came to me, and I was going through the podcast to see if we had an episode on this specific topic, and we had very similar ones, but not this specifically. We went over a lot of things that you should do, gym etiquette, do's and don'ts, but not about pretty much motivating yourself for the first time ever stepping into the gym. And this came from Chris on Instagram. He said, "Hi, Paul. I'm looking to start Muay Thai training soon for the first time. I'm a complete beginner. I was wondering if you had any tips on how to fit in at a new gym, how to feel comfortable. I struggle with anxiety, which is why I think Muay Thai would actually be really good for me. So that's already a good mindset. But I have a hard time just getting myself through the door. If you have any tips or advice, I'd really appreciate it.
It's a great question. And I think it really comes down to, I mean, we talk about our why a lot, and it sounds like Chris's why is to help overcome some anxiety, live a healthier lifestyle, and just be more active and be happy. So if Chris, you're listening to this, if you're able to just really harp on the reasons for why you want to do Muay Thai and you realize how important they are to you, then the anxiety of going to class will be minimal to the anxiety you'll feel by not going to class. And so I like to typically try to trick myself in that way, where the idea of not doing something is more painful than actually doing something. So, like the idea of not going to a Muay Thai gym to train Muay Thai would hurt me more than the anxiety that I'll feel going to Muay Thai. And also developing the mindset that it's usually so much worse. I'm guilty of this too. Like, don't get me wrong. I have social anxiety and I have anxiety in general. But like you build this all up in your head to be like this crazy experience that everyone's going to be judging you and looking at you and beat you up and everyone's intimidating and unfriendly and all this kind of stuff. And 99% of the time that's it's like not going to live up to the expectations that your mind is playing on you. And so yeah, I think really just going deeper into your why and remembering the reasons why you want to join a Muay Thai gym, why you want to learn Muay Thai, and really emphasizing the benefits of that as opposed to not doing that is really important. What type of advice would you give?
I think when people have anxiety, it's like going through it twice. There's a quote about this. I don't know the exact thing, but the idea is that if you're stressing about doing something, taking an action in something, and you know it's something that you want to do, then going through it over and over in your head is just pretty much going through that exact experience multiple times. So if you're going to go through that experience, you might as well do it in the physical world and get a reward from it at the end of the day versus having that same exact stimulus in your mind. And exactly what you said, one that's probably even worse because you're making up fantasy and fantasy can go off the deep end.
Mm-hmm.
So why go through that stress twice when you can just say, all right, fuck it, and then go through that stress once and actually get a reward from it. And then two was I explained to him that most of the time these expectations, not to have expectations, one, for himself, and then not to have expectations for the gym either, because either way, it'll be all good in the sense that if you go into a gym that's friendly, and most gyms actually are, especially in Muay Thai, not a lot of egos. So if you go into one of those gyms, then beautiful. You just made a new friendship. You met a new group of people. You have a new hobby and a healthy lifestyle, like something that will push a healthy lifestyle, especially after all this and being and sitting back at home. Now, if you go into a gym that's full of ego and you go in and you have to kind of earn your respect in that gym, that's a good thing too, because then you learn how to deal with those types of confrontations and things that are going to make you kind of relax in a high pressure environment. And that's something I've definitely taken over the past, I want to say, year and a half now, especially just the changes that I've been making both physically in the gym after having all the injuries. I definitely wanted to work on my mental game as well. I knew I needed to work on this once I get back in the gym, that I need to do something different at the same time. And I went from one extreme to the other where it was, I gave no control to my environment, kept an open mind, a beginner's mind, and let people kind of push me in whatever direction. And then I was just kind of like this ball just bouncing back and forth, letting people, tell me, do it this way. Oh, okay. Do it this way. Oh, all right. I'll do it this way. Right. And then kind of finding my own process and then just being like blinders on and doing it that way. So thinking about it, like I'll go with anyone. And then I went to a process of, no, I'm going to be picky with the people that I spar with and that I go with, because I don't want to go with these guys that might injure me or whatever it may be. And now I settled somewhere in the middle where I'm good with both. I go, okay, this guy goes hard. Cool. This is a beautiful time to learn about relaxing. When a guy has a lot of aggression, they're coming forward, they're swinging heavy shots. Okay, how do I use this to build better transitions? How do I stay calm under pressure? How do I not give in to this emotion that this other person is pushing? And then the same thing when it goes the other way, where it's like really light, almost like too light, where you can't really feel things. Okay, so I'll just work on balance and I'll work on timing and creativity and things like that. Either way, as Jocko says it, good.
Yeah, I think all experience is good experience because as long as you're able to learn and improve from it, just like all failures, quote unquote, are good failures, as long as you're able to learn from it. And I think having the no expectations, um, especially, I mean, I don't mean keep reverting back to like COVID and everything, but like it's really changed expectations of life in general and like what's going on right now. And so, like, when it comes to the Muay Thai gym, just have no expectations. I mean, that's the best way to make sure you're not disappointed. You know what I mean? And like it's all comes down to mindset when it comes down to it, because like that's one thing I've developed throughout the fight career is realizing the capability and the power of the mind, and being able to train your mind in a way and kind of almost trick your mind sometimes to do things that you're not comfortable doing. And that's even more reason why to continue to push yourself physically, because by pushing yourself physically, you're also going to be training your mind, and vice versa. So it's all kind of intertwined in one form or another. But yeah, like, man, I wish I was like 10 years younger and knew what I knew right now, because fuck, man, I would have been doing so many things so differently just by having a more keen awareness of what I like what you were saying too, with like learning from all these other people and just doing what they say. And this way you have a really good like case study of all these different philosophies and techniques, and now you know which ones work the best for you. And then you mold your own style out of everyone else's style, and then you go tunnel vision, you work on that couple stuff, you get really narrow with what you're trying to work on, and then you slowly expand it, so this way you can get a little bit more just diversity in your training, in your looks, and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I really enjoyed you discussing that, because I think a lot of fighters early on, or just practitioners in general, can be worried about different styles of training. And I know like gym hopping has always been like a topic where people are like, no, you stay at one gym, right? I think it's such a limiting way to live life by just having one experience. Like, yeah, loyalty, gym loyalty is definitely a thing. And I think you should do it in a respectful way. But having all these different coaches look at you, having all these different fighters look at you, all these different people look at you, it's all going to be a growing experience in one form or another. So, I mean, we kind of went all around answering this relatively basic question, but it really just comes to kind of looking at it in a bigger picture. Because like, if you look at it in a bigger picture and how much it's going to help improve you as a human being, just the idea of overcoming a little bit, or maybe it's a lot of anxiety to go to the Muay Thai gym, it's going to just expand you as a person, evolve you as a person. And yeah, that's a beautiful thing.
When you talked about having loyalty to the gym but still getting different looks from different fighters or coaches, I use this example quite a lot when people ask me this question, like, hey, is it okay to like cross train or to go with different gyms? Like, what if I fight one of their guys? Things like this. Especially as an amateur, I think it's extremely important. I use this as my mini case study. Obviously it's from personal experience, so it's anecdotal evidence, but coming from my gym, we would go up to Massachusetts to sit Yotong, and we would go down to New Jersey or New York to do sparring every single weekend, and then during the week another trip. And the people that hopped in my car, every single one of the people that hopped in the car and did that 2 to 3 hour drive, depending on where we were going, and then a 2 3 hour drive back after 3 hours of training, every single one of those people fought on either Lion Fight, Glory, or One Championship. There was not a single other person in the gym that fought for any major or elite promotion. Uh, besides now Will fights for the UFC, but he is a specimen of his own, and he looks into everything that he can himself. But from that time period, from the people that were within the gym, it was pretty apparent, like the ones that were open-minded, there were, I think, that commitment of people kind of being asked, hey, do you want to come spar this weekend? It's like, that's a little bit too much of a time commitment. Whatever that character trait is that says too much of one is the same character trait that when you're in a fight, this is a little too much. This need to deliver a little bit too much. And those are the people that go down versus the people that go, okay, quite a hike, but fuck it, it's going to make me a better person. I can get some different looks in. And also a team building experience to be able to do that.
For sure. So just like as a quick like key points, I guess, what would you say in a summary is like the best way to go about overcoming this anxiety of joining the gym for the first time?
Don't go through the stress twice. Only go through the stress once by just committing yourself, going, call the gym, say that you're going to come in and you want to check it out. And that'll make it super easy for the coach to know that you're coming. He goes, oh, okay, we want to welcome you. You know, you're a new person. I know I want to welcome you versus showing up late. So show up on time. Let them know that you're coming. They'll be very welcoming to you. Go through the first class, experience that it's not going to be as bad of an experience as you created in your head. And then you overcame your anxiety, and that's win number one.
Beautiful. Yeah. So I'm sure everyone can learn a thing or two just from pushing themselves to do things that they feel this resistant towards. Speaking of reading and speaking of books, Turning Pro by Steven Pressfield focuses on that a lot, and the concept of resistance. Whenever you feel this type of resistance towards doing anything, most times it's going to mean that that's something that you should do. And so if you're feeling this type of anxiety and resistance towards going to a gym, then utilize that as a sign to do it. That's how I kind of got into fighting, was like I was always afraid of fighting, and I always had this resistance towards fighting. And I was like, why do I have this resistance towards fighting? Why do I shy away from it so much? And that kind of has been a sign for me to do that. And every time I've taken notice of this resistance, whether it's with a relationship or with work or in business or with training, if I'm aware enough at that moment in time, I almost always face that resistance heads on, because on the other side of it is like tremendous growth as a human. And so try to, you're obviously, Chris, I'm talking to you right now, you're obviously aware of your anxiety of joining the gym, right? And so you have that level of awareness where you know that it's probably built up bigger than you think it actually is. So now just taking that step forward and knowing that taking that step forward is going to help you grow. I mean, that's why you're doing it. That's why that's the purpose of life, in my opinion, is like just growth and like evolution, right? So hopefully this podcast shine a light and gave you the courage and confidence that you need to make this shit happen, man.
And if there's anyone to tell you that you can do it, you just had the Muay Thai guys telling you that you can. So there's really no excuse here at all.
No pressure. No pressure.
No pressure at all. But moving forward, we had Eden Starr from Australia being locked down. He is saying that his gym just locked down after a few weeks of training. I'm guessing he's a rather newer guy. And what are some exercises and drills I can work on while my gym is closed? Thanks, guys. I would argue that probably the king of solo training would be Eddie Abasolo. But yeah, you, in terms of creating content for being able to guide people in that, I think you come at second place right there.
Second place to Eddie. I'll take it, man. Yeah, Eddie is a little bit more creative than me. I don't know whether he smokes more weed than me or what, but he probably does, actually, now I think about it. But I love his style of training and like his ability to always just think outside the box when it comes to just like hand-eye coordination.
Oh, you're easy to replicate. Eddie is definitely hard to replicate. I was in the gym when it reminded me, because he just tagged us from the episode that he was on, the Muay Thai guy. So if you haven't listened to it, make sure you look up the Eddie Abasolo episode. When I was staying at CSA, I would sleep on the couch during the day, and he would be with all the lights off on a skateboard on top of a foam roller, boxing with the bag, and then putting like a tennis ball swinging on one bag while he's kicking another bag, and just coming up with these things that he doesn't even know. From what he told me is like he doesn't even know what he's doing. He's just like, oh, this seems like it's like really dialing a certain thing, and then I just move on to the next thing, and you'd see it all day from morning to night.
That's beautiful. It's such a creative mind, and I definitely envy that. When it comes to just like solo training and drills that don't require as much creativity and thought, I think really just coming down to focused shadow boxing is like the way to go. And the way that I like to structure it in my membership, The Fighter's Body, is I structure it in a way where it just has different focuses every minute of every round or every 30 seconds of every round. Maybe the first minute is just my left hand, whether it's hooks, jabs, or uppercuts, or maybe, and then the second minute is my left kick, whether it's a teep or switch kick. And then maybe the third minute is just defensive footwork. And typically I like to try to theme the workouts or at least theme the rounds. So this way I have something just intentional behind the workout for the day. And same goes with the heavy bag. I mean, they have the whole heavy bag blueprint, and the workouts in those are all themed as well. Some are boxing focused, some are kick focused, some are clinch focused, some are conditioning focused. And I think it's really important to actually just like take the time to sit down and jot down specifically the type of stuff you want to work on. YouTube is a beautiful place. You can find all the drills that you need. Like you can find everything you need on YouTube. It's just a matter of taking the time and the focus to create something out of it and to actually do something intentional behind it. I have a bunch of shadow boxing drills, both beginners and advanced, on my channel. Paul has a bunch of shit on his channel too. Like there's a lot of stuff out there. And also you check out Don Heatrick. We're always singing his praises, because when it comes to strength conditioning, if you get a little bored with just shadow boxing and you want to make sure that you're building a good foundation in your strength, then following his stuff when it comes to like weight training or body weight training is also a good option as well. So yeah, that's what I think. What about you?
Yeah, I think the main thing is to just have a purpose and a structure, because it's the same thing as when I remember being like 17, 18, going into the gym. Like, I'll guess I'll do some bicep curls, and I guess I'll do some pull-ups, and haven't done. When's the last time I did bench? It's been a couple of days. Okay, let's do bench. Like, and doing this, and it's like, well, how many reps? How many sets? I don't know. I'm feeling 5 today. Having done that, when it comes to everything from shadow boxing to heavy bag work to partner drills to Don Heatrick's work for strength and conditioning 2 to 3 times a week, it makes real objective. It creates a schedule for me. So it's like work. You show up on Monday to do X, Y, and Z project. You show up on Tuesday to work on this. You show up on Wednesday to do something else. I work with a couple of clients one-on-one, and a lot of what I've done is take a lot of what you said, is taking all these different drills and taking all these different skill sets, all the different lessons that I've taught, and then picking certain parts and certain focuses, and then outlining the programs in that way, where it's Monday, we're working on ring control. You're going through these drills. When you're on the bag, you focus on those specific combinations when you're going to your right side, specific combinations when you're going to your left side. Okay, on Tuesday, we focus on clinch. Don't have a partner, things are shut down. Cool, these are your drills for the heavy bag when we're using the clinch. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, everything has a specific theme. Very similar to what you just said with your shadow boxing workouts. So, yeah, you can definitely check out everything that Sean just talked about. He has all the links when you do the free workouts. You can download one of my free workouts from the Apocalyptic series. It's just muaythaitechnician.com/workout. Pretty simple. Easy. Yeah, and then you get previews to all the skill lessons as well. So, anything else?
Well, we got a few more questions, so we'll dive into them. So Dave said he's into Muay Thai because of us. Thanks. First did only MMA. Hell yeah. History Pete's. Appreciate your support. We got Atos here. How do you deal with nerves before a competition? I have a really hard time with that myself. Any tips?
I have found more recently not allowing myself, being very conscious of whether I'm asking myself questions or going through different scenarios, and stopping myself. So literally allowing my mind to have no mind, to be very conscious of anytime something arises, to just kill it that quickly, and to just say, I'm here to do an objective, a purpose. I don't want to make it like cinematic and talk about like, I'm an assassin, this is my job, this is what I gotta do. But it's just more of a stoic feeling that uh, I have a purpose, and I have to do certain things to serve that purpose and to accomplish it. And all this work that I have already done, there's not that much more that I can do. All I can do is pretty much limit myself by thinking too much and then delaying everything that I've been working on by using my mind too much. So just letting go of it all. I remember my opponent in my last fight, I was trying to just stay like down the pipe, just focus on this. I don't care about this guy, whether the guy's sitting next to me. I don't care if the guy's on the other side of the arena. He started talking to me, and I just wanted to be like, bro, stop. Like, until we go in there, like, I don't even want to hear you talk. But I was just like giving short, like, one word answers, not because I was being rude, but because they were like automatic, quick answers that I know can't continue the conversation and distract me from anything.
Mhm.
So as I'm looking at, even if you were watching the fight in front of you, not to think like, oh, this guy did this, like, oh, what if he does that to me? And then I have to do that, or like this happened in this fight. Oh, what if that happens to me, or I do it to that guy? Getting too high, getting too low, getting too confident, not being confident enough. Neither one works that well at the end of the day. So like being right there in the middle and just serving that purpose. How about yourself?
Yeah, I think a couple things came to mind. First is realizing that nerves are going to happen. Like if you're not feeling nerves, if you're not feeling any type of fear or doubt or whatever it may be, chances are you're going to not have adrenaline during a fight, and that shit sucks. If you're not nervous before, if I'm not nervous before a fight, I'm nervous that I'm not nervous before a fight because something's fucking wrong, So I make myself nervous in that sense. So I think just embracing the fact that you're nervous and that's going to keep you sharp is a good like mindset trick to play on yourself. Like, I'm nervous, good. Like, this is how I should be, and it is how you should be. Secondly, realizing that it's like not a big deal at all. It's like it's weird. It's a weird contrast between like it's the biggest deal of your life. You're about to fight right now, but then at the same time, it's like it doesn't fucking matter at all. This is so small in the grand scheme of things, and like no, it's funny because like after I would lose fights, I would think everyone's who doesn't even know about Muay Thai will be looking at me and like, oh, that motherfucker lost last night on Friday Night Fights.
In the
What a
store, they know.
yeah, right. And then you realize that like no one cares if you win, if you lose, like after that night, no one really cares. Like life goes on, everyone got their own shit to worry about. And so taking the external pressure out of like thinking what other people are going to be thinking about your performance, that helps too. And then lastly, one thing that's really helped me in recent fights is like just have fun. As like corny and cliche that shit is, like I have to remind myself, I put a lot of pressure on myself when I fight, when I do anything, but I remember why I do any of this is because I enjoy it, because it's like a fun thing to do. And when I've been having fun in my fights, that's when I have nerves that are more I don't know, I welcome them more because there's like, oh, this is gonna be fun. Like these are fun nerves. And the thing about like actually fighting, like after every fight, win or lose, I always have fun. I mean, some losses aren't as fun as some wins, obviously. But that being said, during the fight is almost always a lot of fun to challenge yourself like that. And so I think just taking a bit of what Paul said, a bit what I said, and seeing what works best for you, and ultimately just keep putting yourself in that fire, man. Just keep putting yourself in those situations, and you'll learn how to deal with them better and better. Uh, there's no better teacher than experience.
100%. Next question.
What do we got? He's Chuck. I got two. One running. How far at minimum should I be running? And I see. Okay, so first one is how far should I be running minimum?
I feel like the 5K is like a pretty standard number, like all across the board. And to do it, either one, the best routine I found for me personally, again, this is not solicited advice that you should be taking for whatever your style is, but I really enjoy doing the 5K long distance once a day, and then 3 times a week to do sprints on opposite days where they're not back to back and you're frying your legs where it's affecting your training. But having that slow 5K jog at a slow pace, build up those calves, and then having like 2 to 3 explosive days a week for sprints or hill sprints, hill runs, things like that.
Yeah, there you go. I would say pretty much the same thing. I like to run for time more than I like to run for distance. So I'll just run for like 30 minutes or 45 minutes, and I'm not running to like break any records or anything. I'm just running for leisure and to keep my heart rate up. And then the sprints I'll mix in like two to 3 times a week. I tend to do sprints less when I'm not fighting because I don't like them as much. And then Chuck has also seen me, the Muay Thai guy, use small jump rope. Why not the tie rope? Both. Why not both? I mean, I use the tie rope 95% of the time. I think in the video that you're talking about, that was the only rope that was available. And so that's the rope that I use. So there you go. But yeah, I'm more of a fan of the tie rope anyway, unless I'm trying to be like super fast with a speed rope, obviously. But the heavier rope obviously helps with the shoulder endurance.
Yeah.
What else? Any other questions? All right. Can you devise a routine for heavy and double end bags? You can devise a routine for anything. I have a whole program, Heavy Bag Blueprint. For the double end bag, you just got to be more creative. Look up Eddie Abasolo, and I'm sure you'll find a million fucking things with that. And then last question, Mike MMA. I'm 54 and still training hard. I cannot do a split like before. What stretch routine can I use to get that split back? Thanks for any tips and info. So we both have significant others who are doing wonderful yoga stretching routines on their Instagrams and online. And so if you're not following Mia, Paul's girlfriend, or Liz, my wife, follow them. They know their shit when it comes to stretching. I can't do a split, so I'm probably not the best guy to ask. And Paul's not even double pigeon Paul yet. So it's getting there. Are you single pigeon Paul now?
I'm on days that I didn't just have a sparring session or something, or I've been doing my pigeon stretches. Do the pigeon stretch. That's my advice. Do the pigeons, do the pigeon pose, do that stretch. Honestly, people think it's, to get into a split, to open up your hips more, you have to be doing static split stretches, when I have found that not to be the case at all, and science kind of proves that as well. Don just posted something on his page today. So what we talked about with Don, it's not just strength and conditioning. He has been working on my mobility, my rehab from those prior injuries. 13 fights, 13 months, no major injuries. So if you want to use that as evidence that it works, it works. Mm-hmm. And he talks about just strengthening certain parts of the body and using mobility for the other parts in a more dynamic motions, because he said that dynamic flexibility is not the same thing as static flexibility. So he was talking about one of his clients that has like really thick legs and is a heavier guy and is able to get into splits, but he can't throw his legs up when he's kicking quite as high. And part of that physique of being heavier, you actually can, through a static stretch, get a lot lower into a split. But they've been working on strengthening like the outside of his legs, doing these like side laying clams, and a lot of abduction exercise. So a lot of it is also strengthening the body.
Yeah, I think I just saw Don Heatrick come out with that article. I didn't read it, but it kind of made sense just based off the headline and everything, that it doesn't necessarily correlate. Splits doesn't mean high kicks. And also, like, I don't know if you want to do splits to be doing splits, Mike MMA, or if you want to be doing splits because you are hoping that it does high kicks. But honestly, technique is probably more important than, I mean, flexibility is obviously important in order to get your hips up that high, but like high kick technique is also going to be super important. But yeah, hopefully these answered all your questions. We appreciate all you guys. We don't have any other questions, but Ducks fan 61 said he wanted to thank both of us for great focus shadow boxing and bag workouts. He's used a hybrid of the heavy bag blueprint and the apocalyptic theme combos for solo workouts. So appreciate the love, man, from Southeast Texas. It always it doesn't go unnoticed. Trust us. And yeah, so wrapping up, man, is there anything that you want to leave on?
Take Duck's advice, man. He just use a combination of the Striking Academy, MuayThaiTechnician.com/Striking Academy, get the free workout, and get the heavy bag blueprint from the Muay Thai guy, put them together and pretty much master it all.
There you go. Become a master Muay Thai guy. Become one of us. And then you can join our cult and we can take over the world and we'll all be good.
There's enough of that. We shouldn't be saying shit like that right now.
Yeah, we're going to get now social media is going to come after us. Like, oh, the Muay Thai guys are starting a cult. Did you hear?
Don't want to be around people. Trust me, Sean doesn't want to be around anyone.
Yeah, that's yes. I'm enjoying the quarantine still. But yeah, it's always good to catch up. Maybe we'll we always talk about maybe we'll do this regularly every week, but you're here for a year for sure, bro. That's a good thing. And then I'm here. And so yeah. I know
Just can't make excuses and practice what we preach when it comes to podcast.
Stop being a fucking little bitch. That's about it, man. But yeah, appreciate all the love, everyone. We'll be back at you. Make sure you sign up for our emails to keep up to date for when we do come out with the podcast. And yeah, till the next time, we're the Muay Thai guys. We're out.
We're out.